evening, and welcome. Welcome to Wellness Wednesdays. To our family, our usual family, we say hello. To our friends coming in that are new to our stream, I say hello as well. And our future family, we say hello as well. Before we get underway, I'd like you to do a few things: like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and please comment constructively. So, audience, let me ask you this. Have you ever thought about how one wrong click could cost you your peace, your privacy, and even your financial security? In a world where we do nearly everything online, our banking, our work and business, connecting with loved ones, and even people that we don't know, cybersecurity is not just a tech issue anymore. It's a wellness issue. It's about keeping your peace, keeping safe, and protecting your finances. Tonight's episode, Everyday Cybersecurity, is about, once again, how we stay safe in the digital world, not just as business owners, but as everyday people. We're unpacking a few habits that can help you. One, safeguard your ideas, recognize scams before they happen, and create a plan that if you are hacked, you'll be able to recover quickly and confidently. More than likely, you're already familiar with our guests. These guests are in lead roles here at Disruptor DAO. Dr. Eve is actually the creator of Wellness Wednesday, and Paula heads our marketing department. What I will tell you about these ladies is that they are both passionate about keeping us safe online, because real security starts with awareness and a mindset that keeps you calm, prepared, and empowered. So, ladies, come on in and talk to our audience tonight.
Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon from wherever we are in our global world. So this is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and which is why most of you, if not all of you, have already received some form of financial tips from your financial institutions or your retail institutions. And so here we are. We want to dive into this topic a little bit deeper, because cybersecurity equals peace of mind, and we here in Disruptor DAO are all about protecting our mindset. And so, it's interesting because sadly enough, and I'm not sure how many of you already know this, but every 30 seconds, a hacker attacks someone online. Every 30 seconds. And I think now those stats have changed. Over 90,000 cyber crimes are reported monthly. And that doesn't even account for all those other crimes that have occurred that are underreported. But when we think about our statistics, how much it impacts our day-to-day lives, it's a growing issue. And think about it, 95% of malware, folks, is delivered to our emails. 95% of malware is delivered via emails. This is something that we use daily, often. So if we have an average of 1.4 million phishing sites created each month, and we have 95% of malware being delivered to our emails, it's time that we do what? Be savvy, be ready, be conscious. Don't be lax. I think we're getting too comfortable with this word cybersecurity, and we think things aren't going to happen to us. And it's exactly who it happens to, because if 1 in 5 are getting targeted, in another article we just read, it's 1 in 3. If there are 100 folks of us here right now, the majority of us are targets. So, Paula, tell us what we're going to dive into in these next 15 minutes.
So we're going to dive into some cybersecurity threats, and let's kick it off with some malware.
Mm-hmm.
So we know, and I'm going to look at my paper because I just want to give this percentages and give some facts here. Like you were talking about 95%, we have the fact it's like 560,000 new malware threats show up every day. Over 1.2 billion unique malware types are out there. So the impact is that 59% of the organizations are hit with malware, even small businesses. a report about half of them are ransom attempts. So what does that look like? I like to put it in terms of, and I got this off of the internet, that malware is like digital graffiti. It steals your photos, corrupts your files, and it locks down your devices. So the key element here is that if you have devices and you're not taking your updates on a regular basis, you're in jeopardy. If you have old devices and they're not doing their updates on a regular basis, or they stop doing the updates, I would advise to get new devices. And that goes for your laptop, that goes for your phone. You want to be safe, and one of the easiest way to be safe and try to prevent the malware is to update your devices, as well as have some type of antivirus on your devices. So I think I covered it, Dr. Eve, but if I didn't, let me know if I missed anything on the malware.
No, that is often, one of the things that we end up not doing is investing in our devices. We want to have the coolest thing out there, the coolest phone, the coolest laptops, Macs, but then we don't want to spend the $30, $40, $50 that it takes to guard our devices, right? Now, look, folks, it is Black Friday sale. I mean, there's Black Friday sales left and right. So invest in something that will safeguard your peace of mind. And here's one big advice. There's going to be a lot of scammers out there. So purchase it directly from the company, because you can go ahead and get a really great deal and then pay for it later because you didn't want to go to the authentic company that sells it. Updating our devices regularly. We think about just our laptops. We think about, but how many smart products are in our homes, smart devices in our homes, from printers to refrigerators. Now there's blind shades that go up and down. So if they're all connected to our laptops, then we're all connected. So all of those tools, all those appliances actually have firmware. But how often do we actually update the firmware? When we see emails coming from these companies, we don't even open them up. So it's that we could read, okay, what's the latest firmware on there? And folks, believe it or not, your Apple phone, it's not 100% secure. Just having you're
devastating me with this Apple. You're telling me my Apple phone, which I'm thinking is secure, is not necessarily secure. Is that what you're telling me? Is that what you're devastating me with?
I'm sorry to say, but you can open you could be phished, right? Open the wrong email on your phone, or get some type of virus, malware that's linked to a WhatsApp that's on your phone. There's many ways that it can be compromised. So let's step up our game. And we're going to talk about VPNs, virtual private network, when you start talking about phishing. I know that you have a lot to say about phishing. Let's move it on, because we got.
Yeah, I do. And I'll put it out to the audience, because I'm just curious how many of us get phishing or get phished every day. I'll put it like that. I get emails from Microsoft telling me that I need to change my security password right away. I get a lot of invoices. They're telling me that I'm being invoiced and I need to pay something right away. But what's really interesting to me is I get these text messages now regarding tolls. That it's an international number, but it's got a local toll, something about toll. And I'm like, what is this? I haven't even driven my car today, but I'm getting these text messages today about I need to pay right away. So the phishing is one of the most key, or I should say, one of the number one element that gets us in trouble is especially if we're working in a professional environment, working in our business, or just in general as an individual, that when we open an email that has some type of spyware or malware, and it can go throughout the whole entire system, shutting down your system. So you have to make sure that if it's an email that you're not familiar with, if it's an email that you didn't send, or there's asking you for money, don't click on it, delete it. because what that is they're trying to get you into clicking on a link, which will then either put you get your computer in jeopardy, or if you click on a link, it's probably something that they're going to ask you to immediately do to get their information so they could do some damage. And we have so many bad actors out there. It's something that you can prevent yourself. But there's also the fact that you have a lot of the companies now have been breached, and so they do have some of your passwords. We were naming them earlier, Dr. Eve, like Verizon, AT&T, Rite Aid, Live Nation, including some of the credit bureaus. I've been receiving some letters and information about monitoring your credit report because of the whole entire thing. And the other thing is when you're doing your passwords. Am I taking it up for Dr. Jump in anytime about the password?
No, you know what? I'm glad that you're bringing it up, because I think people already know the importance of having strong passwords. So people are savvy now. More and more folks are not using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Although, believe it or not, that's the most used password even today. But what they don't do is they don't change their passwords. So they keep, just using it over and over and over again. And remember, to your point, if we're having so many breaches, how many of you, honestly, have received a letter in the last 30 to 90 days saying that your information has been breached, either from a hospital or some type of learning institution? Because I can tell you, me personally, this year alone, I've received 7 already from major companies. So if my data's been breached, obviously my passwords is out there, as strong as it is, it's time that you change that every 6 months. Some people are doing it quarterly.
Are you getting it? But here's a stat that I just want to bring up, because data is important. I always want to quote data, because data, it puts it in perspective, that over 3.4 billion phishing emails are sent worldwide daily. 1.2% of all emails are actually malicious. Google blocks, so if you're a Google fan, Google blocks 100 million daily. Put those numbers in perspective. Thank God for Google if you use Google on a regular basis, and they block a lot. And here's another one. It says millennials. Now, I'm not calling out millennials and Gen Z, so don't shoot the messenger. I'm just reading some facts that I got off, and I was using Perplexity and some sourcing here, that millennials and Gen Z are most at risk, but nobody's immune. Typically, phishing losses about 136. Big business on one attack costs $47 million. And the reason why they're targeting or saying some of the millennials and Gen Z is because they're pretty. The latter generation is open to really trying new things, and so they're not necessarily thinking about some of the emails or some of the phishing that's going on, or some of the traps that could be set for them, and that's why it's more targeting towards the millennials and Gen Zs. It's all generations, to be honest, but they were just, some of the facts here were just targeting those, called out some of those specifically. So
Now, can I mention something that in actuality, older folks tend to have more email, a variety of emails than the younger folks. Now, here's one thing to consider, and I always share this with folks: have purpose-specific emails. So have one for your social media, have one for your business, have one for shopping, definitely have one for crypto. Make them unique. It's easier to monitor, and if one account's compromised, the other one is safe. Set up recovery emails with a specific one that you just use just for that. A lot of folks have the recovery email, and it's the same. And the recovery email is that email that they've had for years, their old Hotmail, their old Yahoo, their old whatever it may be, right? So it's 2 things with emails. A, make sure that you set up your reminders on your calendars, or maybe coincide it with whenever there's an update on your Apple phone. It's time to update your password, And one more thing, now that we are talking about passwords, please get them off of your OneNotes. When you have them on OneNotes and your phone gets compromised, what ends up happening is you're giving all your passwords on a silver platter, and so you don't want that, right? So what can you do? What are other ways to store these passwords?
Well, I do it with my book. I carry a book around, but I know that's everything that we do is in jeopardy. But I do carry, if I need to, when I'm especially traveling, it's my little passport booklet that has all my passwords in it. But I set it up to where you're not going to get all the information. You make it my passcode, but you don't know if it's what email I'm using. I just made for myself. I may just say such and such, and then that's it. And then you have my password. If I have to do it on my phone, then I may put it in a sentence, or I may put something before and after that if somebody was to look at my phone and there was something in there, they wouldn't necessarily know it's a password. I don't put password, and I
like that.
I don't say password. But mentally you have to know what you're doing in your notes, that you just for yourself, it triggers for yourself what this means, so that you don't forget. We all have brain farts. I know we do. I was at AT&T not AT&T, but my ATM, and I couldn't remember my PIN. Now I've had it for years, but all of a sudden I just blanked out and couldn't remember it at all. So I know we have that, but we have to write things down. But just do it in a way that you will remember what it is to you.
Another thing that I like to do is that I would recommend if you're traveling. You can embed a password into a general letter that you're sending to yourself, and it doesn't, and it's hidden. So sometimes you could have it hidden within a document that you're sending to yourself, and no one has to, and the one thing you don't want to do, and I saw this not so long ago, it's someone actually put an email and said, my passwords, and it's a list of their passwords. We don't want to do that, right?
We don't want to do that.
Here's another advice, actually. If you're having, something that we tell our elders, come up with a unique, long 14 to 18 character phrase that makes no sense in the world. Not Jack and Jill went up the hill, because everybody knows that phrase. Just something that's unique. And then add and change a couple of the vowels into numbers. Now, once you can memorize that, and you can designate that particular phrase, say, to your social media accounts, then all you have to do is add, say, a character and the first three letters of Instagram or Facebook or whatever it may be, LinkedIn, and then ends with 2 characters. So now your phrase, the last 2 characters is all you have to remember, because when you go to your search engine, to the platform that you're going to, boom, it's there. But I feel like we're throwing a lot of little things, but we want you to do is be creative. It doesn't memorizing 3 phrases, one for your social media, one for your business accounts, one for your schooling. It's better than remembering 40, but they have to be unique. Now, I want to share something else that happens a lot. And we know that companies are getting breached, right? And the big companies, I'm talking about universities and healthcare systems, are getting breached. And these are billion-dollar companies who got the big bucks to protect our data are getting breached. Then what does it say about us or small businesses? So limit what you share online, because there's a lot of our information out there because we overshare. And I think especially with social media, we're getting so used to oversharing that we got to teach our young ones. You don't necessarily have to give your date of birth, your actual address, your actual full name on recreational platforms, on platforms that aren't requiring true identity, like the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles. Of course, you're going to have to create a you're going to have to submit real information. But for these other platforms, create an alias with the date of birth and name and nickname and informations that and you create and that you can input. Because if those companies get scammed, hacked, breached, they don't have your actual data that they could then engage in and sell in the black market. And there goes identity theft, right? So
that moves right on into some of our social engineering, because our information is currently out there, right? So, sometimes you're getting calls. So I don't know if everybody's starting to see the increase in calls, the increase in text messages. That's because some of your data is out there. So some of those bad actors have our data and they have our phone number. And I can tell you a story where, my dad's a baby boomer. All right. And so he gets a call, sounds like my nephew. And my nephew is telling, this bad actor is telling my dad that, send me money grandpa, because I need bail money. That's how it pushed my dad's button. So luckily, my dad did not do that. He hung up and called me first, because I'm firstborn, so he likes to call me. Have you talked to your brother? I'm like, no, what's going on? So he calls my brother, and come to find out, Alexander, my nephew is fine, and everything's fine. And it was just somebody who sounded. My dad was like, he sounded just like Alexander. So we have to be concerned now with, and I know we can get into all the weeds because we got some things going on. We got our time. I want to respect our time. Is that AI is going to be a factor in cybersecurity, and then we're going to be a little bit more due diligent in that, because with some of the voices, with some of the other AI capabilities that could trigger some of the people into giving the information. And when people ask you for your social security number, your bank account, that should give you the flag to say, let me call you back, or no, and hang up. Whichever one you want to handle it. There are some links out there, if you go on the website, that you can call and report. But just be aware that you have people out there calling, and it's sounding like your relative, and it's not.
And don't forget that, I think the other thing that happens, remember we were talking about oversharing? Well, a lot of folks put in their social media accounts, hey, I'm going to Virginia for the weekend, and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And their voices are being taped, recorded, and used in AI platforms. So it makes sense that if your nephew had put in shared where he's going and his whereabouts and what he's doing in social media, and he also told your father, hey, I'm going to Virginia, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. So the first catch is, oh yeah, I read that in social media. Oh yeah, I remember you said you're going, and what happened? Oh yeah, Daddy, I got into an accident.
Yeah.
It's social engineering at its best.
Yes.
So one thing that we've been having to now share with our community, how important it is to have a code word in your household, because you won't be able to tell sometimes if that phone call is actually a family member. So these calls are coming up, and repeatedly, and there's a lot of calls being reporting this type of what I call assault. So what is going to be your code word in your household, so that if your son, your daughter, your grandmother, your mother calls and says, hey, I need help, this happened, but don't tell anyone because I don't want them to get angry, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Romance is another thing, that's a hot topic. They fish and they get enough information and enough where you end up, kind of turning over your business accounts to an individual who you haven't even really met. But the psychological trip is there because they master on building trust, gaining your trust, and then they go in for the harm.
Speaking of which, when you say psychological, let me give you some data points on that. 70 to 90% of the attacks use psychological tricks, like fake calls or urgent requests. So there's a lot of bad actors out there calling, and again, hopefully as we evolve and get more and more educated, that people will realize this and be able to protect themselves.
Yeah. I there's so many ways that we can protect ourselves, right? Yeah, guarding our devices, updating our devices, in changing our passwords. We hear this a lot. There's two things that we don't hear of as much, which I want to bring to the table. And that's one, as you travel, be leery of using the charging stations. Use the outlets, because these charging stations are getting rigged, and there's more and more reports of these types of charging stations, not just in airports, in cafes, common areas. So rely on the outlets. Be patient. Wait until it becomes available. I know sometimes folks hog it up, and we have to politely say, hey, do you think there's enough juice in your device? I need some juice on mine. The other thing is, this is an interesting fact. when you see something randomly found on the floor, one of those outlet boxes for your iPhones or charger, don't just take it for granted that someone accidentally dropped it. A lot of those are going to be found in New York City streets now, or wherever you are, or in the airport. And those are intentional. I wouldn't necessarily connect my gadgets, my phone, to something that I don't know whether or not it's been rigged. So be careful with that. Advise your younger ones about that as well. And the most important part, having all these lessons here won't matter if you don't have a plan. A contingency plan is important. Thinking about, okay, what happens? Who do I call? Who's my first go-to? Is it who's my first provider? Who do I reach if something happens? Is it an aunt? Is it someone, a subscription that you're paying for? And what are some of the first steps that you do? Do I actually shut down my laptop? Do I do what? Sometimes we could have the best device in the world put in our phones, but if we don't have a contingency plan, we were just sharing this in our summit on Saturday, that if you don't have a contingency plan, especially for you folks that are business owners or starting your own businesses, if something goes wrong, it makes it more difficult for you to recover your data, to recover the data of your customers, right? So having those plans are super important.
Yeah. So I just want to, I know we're trying to keep it out on regular time. So let me just, you mentioned Summit. We introduced in the Summit that we are part of the cybersecurity team. And as part of the cybersecurity team on digital Disruptor DAO, we kicked off in January of this year, I believe, our first part of cyber, which is our Cyber Shield Labs. And we're doing our second part, our workshop, which is called Disruptor Cyber Shield, Shields Up is for Business. So we know that cyber criminals, are not only targeting corporations, they are also targeting small business now because they know small businesses do not have the contingency plans in place, or they don't have a plan at all, or they don't know where how to start. So this is an easy, low-hanging fruit for the bad actors, and this is where, and I'll give you a stat. Since I like data, that 60% of small businesses never reopen after a cyber attack, and the average ransomware payout is about $200K. So if you're putting data or have data for your clientele, and that's important for your business, and some cyber or bad actor locks it up, and they're asking for what dollar amount in order to recover your data. Do you have that kind of money, especially as a small business owner? Would you have that type of money to be able to pay the bad actor? What would you do in a sense where you needed your data? Do you have a backup for your data? And it goes back to your contingency plan. So what we've
mind you, Paula, that 80% of small businesses close within 6 months because of that. And one of the biggest culprits to that is the phishing email. I'm going to bring it back to that. I know we're still talking about our offer, but keep in mind, phishing emails are one of those things that attacks, but also because a lot of the employees, staff, or owners, business owners themselves are using public Wi-Fi's. They're not using virtual private networks. These are just software you download, and they are as cheap as $30 a year, and even cheaper with Black Friday sales. But you go to a public place, you use their Wi-Fi. Hackers this time of year, they are looking forward to going to cafes to intercept those networks. And that's where your business gets compromised. We know that a lot of folks that work in small businesses or solopreneurs use cafes to be able to focus and work, but don't use their public Wi-Fi. Invest in a virtual private network. But we're going to talk about other things. We'll Paul, I'm going to speak, on our offering for small businesses.
Well, I'll bring it up. So, and what you're going to walk away with is a couple different things when we get in the workshop. But with the workshop, let me just I'm going to read my notes here, so I won't make sure I cover it. Is that it's about investing. So if you've got to invest in some type of plan in order to protect your business. And with this workshop, we have, as you can see, for $299 or a bundle. And with the bundle, you can get the basic cyber, the first part of the cybersecurity workshop that we did in January, which covers just basic information. And then we go into, if you're a small business, if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, it's open for anyone, but we're specifically talking to the business owners or those who want to be business owners and want to know how to protect and how to come up with a strategy for your business. And for $299, plus if you get the bundle, which is about $347, I believe, you'll this will help you in starting, if you're starting from scratch, or if you're in the midpoint, or if you're at that point but you need some more advice. This will help you, and you'll walk away with applying what you learned that day. So let me, again, going back to my statistics, that normally a workshop would normally start around 2K. Something like this would normally start around 2K. But for us, we're concerned about the small business. I'm a business owner, so I know what it's like to have to decide on what you need, what you can stretch out, and what you can go without in order to keep your business moving. But what I can't afford is to have data being taken and then trying to figure out how to get it back if I don't have a backup plan. And this is where this workshop would definitely apply, especially learning how to make sure you have two types of blocks, authentic. I always get it wrong. Help me out with the multi-factor
authenticator.
Thank you. And then of course, if you're dealing with invoices and you're dealing with someone's calling you about you want transferring, wiring money. That's also how to do some protocols around that. And again, I pretty much think we've hammered in this password. But again, we'll reemphasize this password strategy, and it really starts with you educating as a business owner, but also making sure your employees are educated too, and they are aware of what to look for so that they don't put the business in jeopardy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty much if again, we have a QR code if you wanted to come to our workshop. Again, you'll walk away knowing what you need to do, or at least you'll have a beginning if you don't know of a plan, and then you'll be able to apply that once you get into your own business. And I think Zawadi, so we don't keep going over time, keep us on track. I think we've gone over just a little bit.
I'm looking at the time. This is great information. Thank you so much. Our audience, drop a like if you learned something new tonight. And also subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so you will be aware when we come back. Right now, we're coming back every Wednesday. So, but yeah, do that. And comment constructively. We would love that. And feel free to share with your friends and family.
Yeah, let us know. Drop in the comments, drop in the comment one cyber habit you're committing to this week. Like, what are you willing to do? What's your cleanup?
One thing I thought about today, I got a text that said, "Mom, my phone is broken. This is my new number." And before I could think, I responded, "Who is this?" And then I said to myself, "Oh, please." And I deleted it and blocked them. But if you're not aware, like you were talking about, Paula, with your dad, you can go down a rabbit hole. Thank goodness they have you, but there are so many people who don't have anyone in their lives. And there have been many romance scams, FBI scams. There was a woman who lost like $600,000. Yeah. So scan the QR code, join our upcoming workshop, and tell the people in your life. As a matter of fact, you can give somebody a gift. That would be even better. The holidays are coming up. So we look to see you soon.
Yes.
And everybody, thank you for joining us. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week.